So my workspace has been a hot mess. I think it came with the fact that ever since I moved to this apartment, I have been slowly calibrating and figuring out how to set up my studio, which is where we're in right now. And it's a half studio, half living room, mostly my office. And with office, of course, storage is needed, but also the flow. I also value a lot of how everything kind of comes together as a very visual person. And it has been overwhelming, to say the least. But now that it's spring, I figured it is high time for spring cleaning, a little workspace refresh, and last but not the least, I ordered the last piece of, I would say, big furniture for my office, and it is the rug. So before I unravel, I guess that's a word, unravel the rug, I wanted to tidy up most of my space so I can kind of figure out where everything is. I think I am a bit of a messy person in general. I don't know if it comes with my creative brain, but we will try to get to the bottom of that today, and let's get to some cleaning. Look, cleaning is not my personal favorite task. I find it really overwhelming, overstimulating. I am one of those people who gets really distracted. Like I look at something, stare at it for so long, and actually forget where or what I'm cleaning exactly. So another problem that I have with my space and the things I have in general is, actually, the irony is with clothing, I don't really have that much of a problem. But when it comes to stationery and things, it is a different beast in itself. Obviously, because it's my job, but also because there's just a lot of tiny things that kind of go into, where do all of these things go? And that has been my task for dealing with how I organize my space. I even did a diagram and stuff to know which items are in every part of my drawers, or whether it's in open storage or closed storage. So you'll see here I have my open storage, which is this shelf. I've been kind of playing around with what drawers and closed storage goes on the shelf. Like right now I have this wooden drawer that I hope to add more things in, mostly flat artworks or finished paintings, things like that. I figured it'd be nice to add a nice wooden aspect to the shelf, which feels a little bit more industrial. I also think about every layer of the shelf, which drawers are easier for my height. One thing that I also recently got is this really nice deep drawer from Muji. It has dividers, and I think it's a great way to also store things that are easy to access for me. For example, these field notes. I need these memo books a lot. I'm also planning to make a video about my pocket notebooks, so it fit right in. I think the depth of this drawer has been an easier way for me to just put items in without worrying too much about whether they fit or how much are they gonna take up space-wise. And I have white walls. I don't really plan to, jazz it up, but I do love putting some art. This was a print that was given to me a couple years ago. I figured it would be nice, a nice break from all the white things that are on my shelf, especially with my printer and drawer. On the bottom part of the shelf, I have a lot of my barely used items here. Actually, the bins are empty, which will be useful for when I pack mail, but I need to sort out a lot of things that are definitely not something that I need to reach out for. Right now, I struggle a lot with when I'm working on different projects. They kind of just get lost in the mess. So for example, misplaced washi tapes or stamps or stickers, and then down the line I will be like, where did I put this again? And I also don't want to run the risk of having everything out in front of me, because that also gives me a lot of decision fatigue. I think this is honestly a never-ending process. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. While I was going through these, I was like, why do I have 3 different sticker refills again, sticker book refills? Why do I have this? Why do I have that? It actually made me more mindful of what I need close access to. For example, this bin, it has most of my home stuff, so it's gonna be in my bedroom. Which items are gonna be right there when I need them, which items should be kind of inside my locker. So my locker has been a really great addition to this workspace. Actually, one of the earliest things that I added in. This was kindly gifted to me by Mustard Maid, and it just has a bunch of things that I definitely need to sort out. I put them in bins because as a creative person, I think most of my projects are honestly works in progress. They're never finished. And this way, it's easier for me to tuck everything in instead of feeling like it has to have a defined place in my workspace. Before we continue, I'd like to thank Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Now, while I've been doing my physical spring clean, I am well aware that my digital home also needs a lot of spring cleaning, aka my website, which is housed on Squarespace. I've been using Squarespace as a website to house abc.com for maybe 4 years now because I love that everything is in one place. It's very SEO friendly. I can update my portfolio, organize links, and also offer things like workshops or projects without needing a bunch of different tools. I mean, my favorite part actually of Squarespace is getting to add pages because the pages correspond to certain things. So if I have projects and ideas that I want to kind of put in these web pages, I am able to do that through Squarespace. I also love how flexible the design is. You can start with a template. There are a lot that are available for inspiration as well, and you can customize it based on your needs. I love the drag and drop feature. You can also create blocks and customize it in a way that is more on brand for you in terms of colors, fonts, and styles, and even effects. I love the effects that they have with some of the text and photos that come with building your website. And it already has built-in SEO tools, which helps people actually find your work without you having to figure everything out manually. If you've been meaning to do a digital spring clean or set up your website for the first time, head to squarespace.com/abc for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Or you can use the code ABC at checkout. Thank you so much to Squarespace, and now let's go back to more spring cleaning. My desk. Not my favorite to clean because I think I do the most mess here. Mostly because it's big, it's wide and spacious, so in my head, half of it can be for clutter. But I think I've reached a point where it's getting too much and it was finally time to put things back where they belong. I have a lot of things that I receive regularly, like mail or stationery from people I meet. So I make it a point to store those in these bins. These are actually for the kitchen, but now they house like miscellaneous items, and I think the easiest storage solution that I found was adding things in bins, and depending on where the bins are and what the bins rolls are for. So for example, I have a bunch of these plotter refills that I actually need regularly because I do add a lot of pages. So I decided to just put this in a larger bin and access things where I need them. This paper drawer situation, this cardboard drawer situation, it was initially in the shelf, but I figured that having this drawer set up on my desk was easier for me to hide all the mess that I see regularly that doesn't need to be on my desk. I have a bad habit of leaving things where they are because I am this out of sight, out of mind person. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but it's definitely getting to me. It's definitely catching up to me. And after tidying this space, I actually told myself that there should be like a threshold of tidiness I have to do every single day, even if it only takes 5 minutes, where it's just like a reset, make sure the space is empty. It's like closing out your work cubicle, and I think that's really important for me as someone who works from home, because you always think like, oh yeah, I could revisit that another day. But the clutter that is on my workspace actually stresses me out more than anything else in my apartment. I also decided to add this cute mushroom lamp. This was some impulse buy actually from the hardware store. I figured it would be a nice way to be able to work. I don't have my desk lamp anymore, so this is a nice replacement for that. Now let's tackle the couch area. So if you've watched my moving vlog, you would know that this couch actually was on the opposite side of my office, but I figured that adding it here to this side is better. Also, decor-wise, lighting-wise, and flow-wise, I always think of flow in terms of when you walk into a room. Somehow, having the couch on the opposite side was kind of blocking the way, especially because the couch is more or less as deep as my table. So I figured having them all on one side flush to the wall was a better solution. And you guys, I didn't expect how stressful this was gonna be with adding the rug, because I insisted that I would just set it up myself, which I think was a challenge I wanted to take around this time. This was a very stressful one because obviously I had to like move everything in one side of the room. I didn't have enough space, but I think patience was key and I definitely made it work. Big shout out to Emma Chamberlain's podcast, because that definitely got me through a lot of this tidying and cleaning session. I also was very hesitant on putting this rug out. Initially, I had a different rug in mind for this room. I had something that was a bit more playful. And then I saw this outdoorsy one and it had like the right shade of yellow that I wanted. And also it would be easier to clean. So I figured this was the one that I would pick. But I don't know about you, but like rugs for me are a very new territory because, you know, having like a big piece of fabric or pattern or a piece of color on your floor is like something you really kind of have to get used to. But, you know, after much iteration, after looking at it for a while, actually I think it matches the space perfectly. And now I can have designated quote unquote floor time. So I could like chill in the rug and like work on stuff if I don't want to work on the wall. I feel like this space is a lot more settled now. You know when you're at the point where like everything is completely tidy and you don't want to touch anything? That's me right now, just trying to sit in this couch and worrying that if I sit on my desk, I'm gonna cause chaos again and it's gonna go haywire. But it's nice to know that I think there's a certain threshold of tidiness I can tolerate and I don't want to go beyond that. That's to say I even clean or tidy up maybe every week. It's just sometimes there's a lot of things that happen, you know, in my workspace. I'm also usually like, apart from typing on my computer, packing mail, doing journaling, organizing stationery and things like that. So it's tricky. I'd love to know how you organize or set up your workspaces. And if you want to know more about how I organize or do my stationery organization, which is still a work in progress, I feel like that is a very tricky topic. But I'm happy to debrief with you in a future video. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. And I am well aware we don't have a workspace tour yet, so maybe that's coming later in the summer once I finally figure everything out. I think now I'm like 90% done with my workspace, which feels great because I think moving into this apartment, my first priority was making sure the space was conducive enough. There were a lot of tweaks that I did, a lot of furniture that I had to change in order for the space to work. I am pretty happy that my desk still stays because it's really big and it's standing, and now that I have a walking pad, it's the best combo. Still getting used to it. I got a little dizzy the other day, so I really need to figure out like a proper like speed and like how fast I'm typing, or maybe I shouldn't work too much while I'm using it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed spring cleaning with me. I'd love to give a shout out to Anything Goes by Emma Chamberlain because I was listening to like maybe 3 podcast episodes while getting all the cleaning done. I figured the only way you will get me to clean is someone is yapping while I have my AirPods on. Otherwise, I'll get too in my head and I'll start to kind of disassociate, and we don't want that. And I feel like I would take longer if I didn't listen to anything. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I admittedly have felt really conscious filming this because you see a lot of my mess and It's really messy. Not ashamed to admit that I am really a messy person. But I'm working on that, you know? Tidying up is always great. It clears the mind. I know future me will thank me for it. So maybe this is also a sign for you to refresh your workspace a little bit. I promise you it'll do wonders for your brain as well, as much as I did. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!